Are the Texans, you think, committed to trying to get him to return?
Yes.
And they are. Okay. So you would have to blow them away with an offer. And what does that mean? Does that mean 3 1s and 2 players, or?
Here's the Texans just aren't there today. They're just not there today. So again, a team can try to make an offer, but they think, right or wrong, they think Deshaun's their quarterback. I don't agree with them today, but that's their quarterback and that's their opinion. And there was this great curiosity after the Stafford move. Okay, well, who's next? And when's this happening with Deshaun? They are not on the same tracks. They're not on parallel tracks. They're not running at the same speed. Stafford and the Lions had agreed to go their own separate ways. With Deshaun Watson, he wants to be traded, and the Houston Texans don't want to trade him. So the dance plays out, and let's see how it goes. I mean, we'll see.
All right, there was Adam Schefter talking about Deshaun Watson on our podcast, which you can find below in the description. Full interviews there.
Also, subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a little comment in the below in the comment section, and we'll interact with the people.
All right. If we're waiting for Deshaun to get traded, what Schefter basically said is it's going to be a while because the Texans, from what he's heard, the Texans are not going the full Lions here. The Texans are committed to trying to keep Deshaun around.
Well, I think there's 2 options, right? That would make some sense that you could kind of justify. Would be the second pick and then a boatload stuff from the Jets, or the third pick and potentially Tua from the Dolphins. And my pushback would be like, what if you, one, don't like the quarterbacks in this draft beside Trevor Lawrence, because he's obviously going to Urban Meyer at number 1. So then the next group of the 3 of them, I think, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, and Justin Fields. If you don't view any of those guys, which is definitely fair to say, I don't think they're going to sniff Deshaun.
Yep. And by the way, I would say there's no way they would know that information now. They have to they've got to study those guys before they can decide whether or not they would take one of them as Deshaun's replacement.
100%. And wouldn't you say, I think it's fair to say that the league is not going to view those guys, like Deshaun is a consistent Pro Bowler now. If I told you that
he was
one of those guys
number 1 overall pick that hit, well, I guess he was number 1 pick.
Yeah, he was 10 or 12.
He was a number 1 level prospect that hit.
Yeah, basically a home run. I think if any of these other 3 guys beside Trevor Lawrence was viewed as a Pro Bowler, I think we'd be talking about a lock, that guy going number 2. And that is just not the discussion right now. And that doesn't always mean that turns out to be that way. But I think a lot of times when you see a quarterbacks go 1-2, definitely the last half decade, Wentz, Goff, or vice, they went different order. But Mariota, James, I think people thought those guys could be Pro Bowlers. I think there's a lot of question mark on that. So you're not going to trade your Pro Bowl quarterback for a guy that can't be a Pro Bowl quarterback. And Tua, in theory, let's say Tua was kind of good, and they just, why do they want to get rid of him? Honestly, it doesn't really make sense for the second and third picks, whether it includes Darnold or Tua or the rookie quarterbacks. Those guys aren't going to sniff Deshaun. I have Deshaun.
Number 1 might.
Number 1 would. But that's a divisional trade. If you're the Jags, people would view you you do get a pretty great opportunity to get a guy on a rookie contract when Deshaun's not on. And just Urban gets to mold his guy.
Yeah, I think the only reason that's even worth discussing is because...
Who says no first?
I think the Jags say no first.
Yes.
Yeah. But I think the only reason
I think the Texans would get a pass on trading him.
I think they would be applauded. Okay, you just gave up this guy, but you didn't just get any number 1 pick. This isn't Goff versus Wentz. This is a guy that people have been waiting 3 years to come out of college. I do think the only reason that conversation is at least worth having is because Urban Meyer's the coach. And Urban does not stay places 8-10 years now, right? It's Urban's got a 5-year window to try and win a championship and become one of the greatest, maybe the greatest of all time, right? There are some that he would even go there. But the point is just, I think that's...
Also a guy he literally never loses. He's not into losing.
Yeah, and he's... So Urban would be the reason that you could have that conversation, that he does not have a big window.
Yeah. Deshaun would give the Jags an immediate chance to win. Where even if Trevor Lawrence is really good, there's a chance that they win 5-6 games. But my pushback would be, he's kind of talking like Andrew Luck. I remember when Andrew Luck showed up to Indy, they made the playoffs as a rookie, and his coach had cancer. So that is, and this is where my pushback on Trevor Lawrence has been, the hype. Andrew Luck's hype was super high, And then he carried the Colts for 3 years before he started getting banged up. Dude, I don't think most people envision the Jags being even in the mix. And maybe I'm underestimating Urban. Maybe I'm underestimating Trevor Lawrence a little bit. If I gave Deshaun Watson to the Jags, or if I gave Deshaun Watson to the Jets, or if I gave Deshaun Watson to the Miami Dolphins, they would be viewed as a team that could compete to win the AFC, right? Or as I think the way we talk about it is like a chief contender, a contender for the Chiefs to have to deal with. The Jets, he was just on a really shitty team. He won 4 games. Robert Sala's never been a head coach. Like, I don't think the Jets would be a playoff lock, do you? Given their talent,
No.
Given what they'd have to give up, given that their coach we don't know anything about as a head man. Matt LaFleur, I think he's probably going to be pretty good, or I guess Mike LaFleur, but he's never called plays, really, right? He's worked for Kyle.
I think they'd be close, though. I mean, the Texans were a complete dysfunction, and Deshaun was still good.
on defense. So you'd think the Robert Saleh, their defense would be improved, right, for the Jets. They don't have play. Their roster's pretty shitty on D, though. That's where I think in the NBA, sometimes you see this happen. Like, part of James Harden, he didn't care what the Nets had to give up because he knew he'd have Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. With football, if I'm going to trade all these picks and I'm not a great team to get Deshaun Watson, how am I going to get good around him? It's a little more difficult.
Yeah.
Like, how am I going to – if I'm the Jets and I got to give pick 2, I got to give my other second-round pick and a second-round pick next year, those are a lot of assets that I was planning on getting, like a sweet tight end, a baller safety, and the top number 1 wide receiver. I don't have those anymore. So then a pressure comes on like my second and third round picks, which we all know is hit or miss, right? For every DK Metcalf or AJ Brown, there's a Dante Pettis, and it's not like, well, that only happens to shitty. No, it happens to everybody. I mean, Belichick's got kind of shit on this year for draft. Drafting is just hard. If you draft 20 players, I'd say if you hit on like 8, like really good starters and like a couple Pro Bowlers, and then like 4 or 5 on top of the 8, or just kind of can be special teamers, you're in pretty good shape, right? But I think everyone thinks we're gonna get like 5 starters. Like, that's not usually what happens.
No.
And when you're a bad team, it becomes like the Saints, for example. They don't need to have a great draft. Or the Chiefs. They usually do.
Or the Rams.
I'm just saying, like, or the Rams. The Jets, if the Jets have a bad draft, wouldn't you say that sets their franchise back?
Yeah, which is
they don't
why,
have any players.
Which is why if you're going to give them up, you need a lot of picks, because you have to assume you just. I mean, ideally you hit on all these picks, but I think part of this conversation that, part of what Adam's
saying.
Wouldn't
the Dolphins then make the most sense because they're already good?
Yeah, the Dolphins do make a ton of sense, but again, like the Dolphins. Is Tua anything that matters to the Texans? Like, the Texans might not think Tua. Like, yeah, we want 2 players, but Tua's not one of them. Like, we'll go sign Marcus Mariota. We'll go trade for Marcus Mariota. Like, we don't. Like, don't.
What if you just take Tua as the throw-in, kind of like Goff? It's different financially.
Yeah, but they might prefer,
you give us 3 ones and Tua.
They might prefer a better player on defense, and think, we don't need Tua. We'll go trade a 5th for Marcus Mariota.
Yeah, give us Xavier Howard or Byron Jones, the corner, or something.
That's where, like, to me, part of what.
Why would you want a player for the Texans? You're going to suck.
Why would you want a player? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe they think. I'm just saying. You have to actually value Tua for him to be. I don't think this Deshaun Watson trade would involve any like. Oh, just throw that other guy in. Sure, why not? We'll take him. Like, they want everything.
People talk about Tua like he's like ice cream. Like, yeah, everyone likes ice cream. Like, no, I don't think everyone's gonna like Tua. It's like, yeah, give him Tua. Like, no, I mean, it's not universally liked. Honestly, I would say even if you did like him after the draft or coming out of the draft, which a lot of people did, the opinions have changed, right?
Yeah. And I'm just saying, everybody in this trade is going to have a purpose in this trade. So it's not like Tua, Tua's not making nothing. I mean, he's a rookie quarterback who was drafted really high. So,
that's where, to me, if you can just get the amount of picks you're asking for from the Dolphins, the 3rd pick and a couple more ones that any team would give you, the Colts, the Niners, whoever, like that's your asking price, and getting Tua too, just to have your chance to take a swing, get a guy on a rookie contract that, who knows, could be good. If not, you can pivot away from here in a couple years. It does give you a high upside chance. Because to me, his upside's a lot higher in theory than like Sam Darnold, just because 1 year injured, everyone in the league liked him, maybe you hit lightning in a bottle and still accumulate all the other picks you're looking for.
Yeah.
But then you're still always kind of looking for a quarterback.
Yeah. I guess they could always flip with the Jets somehow, too, if they wanted to turn around, do a deal with the Dolphins.
Yeah.
But then if you're the Jets would just
to
do
me,
the
the
deal
Dolphins
with
and
them.
the Jets make the most sense of just getting a really powerful pick right now that you could even trade back or just accumulate a ton of picks. It does give you options,
Well,
right?
part of
With a pick in the 20s for Deshaun Watson doesn't do anything for me if I'm the Texans.
Yeah.
Like the Colts.
No, it's true.
I'm not trading him to the Colts.
But part of this whole game, too, is you've got to make people think you want to keep him. You got to make people think they have to take him from you.
Yes.
Otherwise, now if two teams think they can that he's gone and they're just bidding against each other, that can be just as powerful. But I also think part of this from a PR standpoint, John, is you cannot be viewed as the ones that just, okay, fine, Deshaun, you want to go. Like, you got to be viewed as if you tried to make it work. I think organizationally, Nick Caserio, you cannot start your GM tenure with getting bullied by a player without at least trying to make it work, make him not show up.
Well, especially if you look back at the origin of how they acquired him, right? It's not like they had sucked. They had the number 1 overall pick. It's like, yeah, you just kind of lucked into this guy. Your organization, different management, traded up to get him, and it was a home run move, and then it works, and you have him. Like, the NFL, part of, I think, why people, the Khalil Mack trade, which you and I have talked about, I think Jalen and even Jamal Adams was kind of unique. But Khalil Mack, franchise player, no one ever trades a defensive lineman who's good in their prime. I remember when he was traded, it was an unprecedented, an all-pro defensive pass rusher had never been traded in his prime. It was I remember all these tweets coming from Elias and stuff. Same thing with a quarterback. Like, under contract, who's a Pro Bowler, no one would do that. I mean, it's unheard of. Now, usually a guy like this doesn't demand a trade, but like you said, if you are going to give him, you're going to have to literally, the public, whatever, you need to win the trade. Like, you need to be like, damn, they got 3 1s and 2 2s and a quarterback to,
Yeah.
two
And
of
even
might
that,
be
the
good.
only way you truly win the trade is if you nail your pick. Like, even that's not really winning because you
So
lost
then
the
find
asset.
another quarterback.
Yeah. The player. You lost the player. Caserio called him the player.
You didn't call him by name?
We did, but then he called him the player later.
Do you think Caserio is a big workout guy, natural jawline, or just
Natural
really healthy?
jawline plus when his body takes.
He's 45. It's not,
His body takes.
he's not
Yeah,
young.
but the natural jawline tells me his body takes to working out. When it turns out you're good at something, when you do 10 push-ups, you do a bunch of sit-ups, all of a sudden, pop, you have abs. It's easier to like get up the next day and do your sit-ups again. As opposed to 8 months of abs and no abs. 8 months of sit-ups and no abs. Speaking
He
from
has a great jawline.
someone
He
who
really
hasn't
does.
done 8 minutes of abs.